Hello and welcome to It's Your Time to Shine. I'm your host, Christoff J Weihman, America's favorite speaker empowerment coach and the creator and producer of the Ultimate Speaker Competition and co-executive producer of Speak Up on Prime Video. Season 5 coming up in early 2023. I'm super excited. Happy Saturday, everybody. I have an amazing special guest today that I am going to bring on, and we're going to have a conversation with Dr. Paul Wondracek. He's a renowned speaker who helps individuals and businesses get focused on their goals so that they can improve their performance. He inspires and motivates people through his unique approach to building resilience through coaching, collaboration, and clarity. His goal is to help organizations get moving in the right direction by delivering effective strategies and training. And Paul will be featured on his own episode in the upcoming season of Speak Up on Prime Video, Season 5. Please help me welcome to the stream my good friend, Dr. Paul Wondracek. Dr. Paul, how are you today?
Great to be here, Christoff. Thank you so much. It's an honor for the invite. Great to be on your show. Looking forward to Speak Up in January.
Woo! It's going to be so much fun. And
Yes.
You and I connected just a short while ago. I'm going to say maybe a month or less. But I've been following you, and I'm just really thrilled to have you on today. I really am a big fan of everything that you are doing. So we're going to step back for a second and invite you to share just a little bit about your background, your history, where you grew up, and we'll continue from there. But your turn, my friend. Just a little bit about who is Dr. Paul Wondracek.
Yes, sir. Great to be here, Christoff. Thank you so much, everybody. So honored to be here. I want to just say, I grew up and I was an athlete, so I played basketball, college basketball, and had a big injury my freshman year, broke my foot, was on crutches for a year, and there was a big purpose shift in my life. I always say there's 3 stages to your vision in your life. There's the mystery stage, the misery stage, and the mastery stage. The mystery stage is when you get the call or assignment and you really feel like you know why you're put on this earth. The 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you figured out why. And so when I was 18 years old, I figured out why I was supposed to be here. And so we call that the mystery stage. You don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to come together, who you're going to meet. You just know you have a purpose. And after a few years of reaching for it, obviously you hit what's called the misery phase, where you hit the wall, you burn out, you're confused, and you don't have enough information to get you toward the next season of your success. But in the misery phase, Christoff, is where we find mentorship. The mentor will always find you in the stage when you're ready to give up. And so I've had some great, wonderful mentors in my life, and through mentorship and coaching, which I'm a strong proponent of. I do it. I have coaches in my life. Christoff, of course, engages in this type of business, and he is a coach as well. That your mentor takes you to the mastery stage. And, a lot of what I do now is really helping people understand about collaboration. There's one thing about your destiny. You will not get there by yourself. Big doors swing on little hinges, and those hinges are relationships, key relationships that help you fulfill your purpose in your life. So what I do now, Christoff, is I'm a keynote speaker. I do coaching, collaboration, and training to help people get unstuck and forward focused. Maybe you're in the misery phase, the mystery phase, or the mastery phase, but coaching, collaboration, and clarity is kind of what I'm working with corporations. And I was also in pastoral ministry for 30 years, as Christoff has a missions background. So there's a lot I did in nonprofits and in ministry as well that's really equipped me. I was in mental health for 15 years as a mental health counselor. And so a lot of that, it's kind of like everything I've been through has prepared me for this moment. And that's kind of what they say, favor is when preparation meets opportunity. And I think that's where we're at right now, kind of at a crossroads, Christoff.
I love it. And where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Greenwich, Connecticut, grew up in the Long Island, New York area, Greenwich area for about 12 years. And then we moved to North Carolina with my family, Winston-Salem, where I, grew up as an adolescent, went to college at UNC Charlotte, got my graduate degree in Virginia Beach, and then came back here to the Raleigh area, Raleigh, North Carolina, where I've been for about 21 years.
Wow.
And, Raleigh, North Carolina is about 3 hours from the beach, 3 hours from the mountains. So we kind of got the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And when you and I first spoke, I remember you had mentioned so in your ministry, you lived overseas, you traveled overseas, you spent time in South Africa, you spent time in India. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. Some of, maybe an experience. Did you live there for a period of time? Was it mission trips that were just short, a couple of weeks long, or share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I started out at 18 kind of speaking to student groups. I was on college campuses, so I did a lot of student group speaking. They call it traveling as an evangelist, itinerant speaker, did that and with a student pastor for some time. And then when I started, when I became an adult in my 20s, I began to, travel all over the country, and some doors opened up overseas. And there's a real leadership vacuum in countries such as Pakistan, India. My first trip was to India for 16 days, speaking 3 times a day to 10 people in a crowd. They're all sitting barefoot on the floor, Indian style. And they were telling me, you cannot speak for less than 3 hours. And so, when you got to speak for for at least an hour to 2 hours, you're going to speak everything you've ever spoken in your life. So I've got all my messages in the same message so I could try to fill the time for 3 hours. And then it was a really incredible experience. And then South Africa, Pakistan was interesting, and I'll be brief about this, but they invited me over there, a bunch of leaders, some government leaders and some nonprofit leaders, and they put together a big meeting, and I'm on the bus getting ready to go to the meeting in Pakistan. Now imagine being in the airport. You don't know anybody but 2 people in the whole country, and your cell phone, and they're not answering the phone, and you're at customs. And I'm in the middle of Pakistan, sitting at customs. They're about to turn me away when finally, after 5 minutes, my phone rings, and it's my representative there in Pakistan, and they said, "We're here to pick you up." And it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but they pulled me into the arena. There's 30,000 people in the arena, and they are hungry to be encouraged and to be blessed. And so I got the opportunity and privilege to be able to talk to 30,000 people at one time. It was always a dream of mine to be on some of the bigger stages. So that's kind of been how I've been molded into the person that I am today.
That's incredible. As I shared with you, I lived overseas and was was the non-denominational mission organization for 11 and a half years, lived in the Philippines, spoke at some pretty big events. Nothing near that big. That's pretty remarkable.
It was interesting for sure.
Yeah. And so you had been in ministry for 20 plus years. Is that correct?
Yes, I started traveling itinerantly and speaking at churches when I was 18 years old. And now I'm 47. So
it's been a little bit of time. And now you are taking all of this knowledge and expertise and leadership and counseling and all of the tools that you have accrued and developed over those years in ministry. And you are now reaching out more and bringing your message to corporate type of environment, working with businesses, coaching, entrepreneurs, et cetera. Is that right?
Absolutely. Whether you're in ministry, business, entrepreneurship, whatever, it's a people helping business. And I know you, Christoff, we've had conversations where it's really about helping people and, solving problems for others. You're one of 2 things. You're either a problem solver or you're a problem. You know what I mean?
Or a problem exacerbator or a problem magnifier, right?
You're a bucket of gasoline or something. Yeah, exactly. And so, I've solved problems in the nonprofit arena for many years, and now we're kind of moving into the for-profit corporate arena because people are people, whether people are behind a church wall or people are in their office. I always say this, one of my favorite quotes: life, if you break life down to the most simplistic way, life and success, it's going into rooms and talking to people. What is politics? Going into rooms, talking to people. What is family? Going into rooms, talking to people. What is your job? Going into a room, talking to people. What is business? Going into rooms and talking to people. If you can master going into rooms and talking to people, you can be successful. If you have no rooms to go into and no people to talk to, it's not going to work out so good for you. So I just think it's taking it to a different arena and tailoring your message and life experience. I've written a lot of books, so that has gives me a lot of content. But now it's just the packaging. The message doesn't change, but the method or the packaging changes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's the same. The content doesn't change, but we have to market it and put it in a vessel that is receptible to whomever our target is. Right. Absolutely. And speaking of books, so you mentioned to me, and I did believe you. I believed you, but I also looked it up. You are the author of 35 books.
Yes,
35 books, my friends. I don't care if the books are only 20 pages long. That, which I know they're probably not, but that is something quite remarkable. So when did you start writing? When did you launch your first book? And what was the impetus for that?
Well, I always wanted to write a book. Obviously, when you start out wanting to do something, you don't know the path to get you there. You don't know the system. You don't have a system in place. So I believe it was maybe 2005 or 6. I began working on a book. It took me 4 years to finish my first book. A publishing company approached me and published it for me. And, it was an interesting experience, but it took a long time. And it was basically a lot of my messages from the previous 10 years I put together into a book. I would say you look back on what you did when you started and you're probably not too impressed with it. And so, I was like, okay, my last book took me 4 days. So it's a process of working your system. One of my mentors has written 1,000 books. I've had another great coach in my life that's written about 50. And so you get around people, again, you get in rooms where people are using their gifts and it kind of rubs off on you. They say the ability to recognize greatness in someone else is proof that it resides in you as well. So the proof that you're great at something is that when you get around greatness, you can recognize it. And I've had, fortunately, some really great people that I've crossed paths with. So I started, and actually when the book explosion happened was during COVID. I had a lot of speaking engagements that were canceled. And, I wrote 18 books in 2020. I was trying to go for 20 in 2020, but I wrote 18 books in 2020. And I found my system. I had a system for how I wanted to write. Don't try to be creative and edit at the same time. Write your whole book, be creative, order the proof, and don't edit it until the whole book is done. Because the editing process, if you try to intermingle it with your writing, it will confuse you. So I would get my computer every day for 2 hours and I'd type very slowly. And I would just want to get my thoughts out on paper. In a year, I had 18 more books. And it just started to where I developed a system of, I call it to divide, develop, and deliver. Dividing, developing, delivering is you get the idea, you got to divide it in your mind. Then you have to develop this into a book. Then you have to deliver it in a way that people understand it. In other words, you have to scratch the itch. There's an itch for something in that market and you have to provide relief or information. And so now, I'm working on 4 books as we speak. It's just become a part of my life to write down. I always say, I heard a great speaker, you'd know him, Miles Monroe, Dr. Miles Monroe. He said, it is your imperative to die empty. In other words, before I depart, I've got to impart. In other words, before I leave this earth, everything that's inside of me, it's my responsibility to leave it for the earth and to leave it for people. So I feel like a book is maybe one of the best ways to do that.
Wow. So much there, my friends. If we can touch on some of those things, having greatness within you. Anybody who's heard me speak knows that I am a mentee of Les Brown. I am so grateful to have spent time with him and learned from him and serve him, share the stage. And I always quote him, and he says this: I don't know you. I know you somewhat, Paul, but I don't know you all that well. But those watching, I don't know you, but I know something about you. I know that you have gifts and talents and abilities that only you are meant to bring to this world. You have greatness within you. Yes. And when we do our live events, I always share that. And then I ask everybody in the room to find a partner and to look them in the eyes and then to say to them, you have greatness within you. And everybody says it, and you feel this energy and this emotion.
Yes.
And then I say, but wait, we're not done yet. Now I want you to say to your partner, and I have greatness within me.
I love that.
But the level and the tone and the energy is a little bit lower. I say, no, you got to say it like you mean it. And then I ask afterwards, raise your hand if it was easier to say the first one. You have greatness within you. And for most of us, I believe my experience is that it's easier to tell somebody else, you're awesome. Dr. Paul, you are amazing. You are gifted. You are a blessing. But for me to walk around thinking or saying or proclaiming, I'm amazing. Sure. People look at you like, well, who the heck are like, what the hell, man? Wow, you're special, aren't you? Yeah. Wow, good for you. But that's contrary to what our society teaches, where it's contrary to our culture. Mm-hmm. And, there's so much feeling of inferiority and depression and self-doubt and all of these things. And, you said we need to impart before we depart. And it's also empowering others to really own their own greatness. Because if you didn't think you had something, if you didn't believe in your heart that you have something of value to share, you're not going to sit down and write, one book, let alone 5 or 10 or 20 or more. Yeah. And there's oftentimes this thought or this belief, I think I'm not the only one that's ever felt, well, why would anybody listen to me? Sure. Why would anybody care what I have to say? That's right. And guess what? Some people won't. Some people won't care. Some people don't care what you have to say. But everybody has a message for somebody. True. And it's important for us to show up. You mentioned about, so I'm the author of 2 books. I'm working on my 3rd, and I'm in 2 collaboration books. Yes. And I'm scurrying not to catch up. But you are an inspiration. I love that. A couple of things. My first book took me 6.5 years.
It's true.
6.5 years. But guess what? I can say my first book. Right. Because I have my first book. Yes. And so many people talk about, think about, dream about, consider, write a plan, dream again. I'm going to someday, but they never write the book. They never sit down and do it. And then the other thing so we want to really encourage anybody who's watching, you don't have to have doctor in front of your name. You don't have to have certain letters behind your name. You don't have to have a certification, a doctorate degree, whatever it is, in order for you to go out and write a book. And I'll tell you, this, Dr. Paul, being an author just elevates a person in the perception of the public. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't mean you now are smarter than you were before you wrote the book, because the book came from within you. Correct. But it is the positioning of your authority. And so if you are considering it, if you're watching this and you have thought, man, I have a message to share, then you need to go out and share it. Both Dr. Paul and I are speakers, of course, as well. Yes. I believe that each of us, if we are called to, we need to seek out stages. And if we are speakers, we then should also put our message down and print to leave a legacy. And when you said about, writing and editing, this is what stops a lot of people. They're typing. So for me, when I write, this is how I write my books. Yes. With a pen. Yes. I write.
That's your system.
Then I go back and I type it. I can't think well, I don't have the connection electronically. And there is, for many people, there's a mind-body kind of connection with the hand and the heart and the paper.
Yes.
But there's a movie called Finding Forrester, starring Sean Connery.
Yes.
And he was a novelist who then became a professor. And there's a saying that I quote him, and he says, and it's going to be my good attempt. He says, "You write with your heart. You rewrite with your head."
Oh, yeah.
You write with your heart. You rewrite with your head.
Yes.
Because you can't do both at the same time. Editing, figuring out which words or which order, what grammar, you just write and pour it out, scribbly notes or bad typing, bad typos.
Get it out.
Go. Just get it out. And it doesn't matter. And in fact, when I write, I even write notes next to it that say, I think this is the idea, but maybe let's expand on this later. So I can just it's there, but it's not the end.
Exactly. It's interesting you say that. I use something called Evernote on my cell phone. It's just it's in the cloud, and you basically can open a file and write down what you think. And I've got over 3,000 files of just my thoughts during the day. And that's, Christoff, that's where my books came from. And you had mentioned, a book is instant influence. I always say a book is instant credibility. A book can go where you cannot. People are reading a book in London right now, and while I'm doing this show, so you can influence so many more people, whether it's a Kindle book, an audio book, or a soft cover, hardcover. Another thing I do is I always have the cover printed first, and I put the cover up on my wall by my office, and that motivates me to finish the book.
To visualize it, absolutely.
Visualize it. Yes,
and I even go the next step. And by the way, I just want to pause. We do have some people watching, and we thank you for being here. And we have got Dee Taylor, who is she's commenting quite a lot here. Good afternoon, Bishop.
Hey, Dee.
And yes, Christoff. So it took her 5 years to write her book, but guess what?
Yes,
you did it. And it's a huge accomplishment. And once you've done it,
exactly,
you can do it again if you want to.
Anything you do twice becomes easier.
Anything you did twice becomes easier.
Yes.
And you mentioned Evernote. Oh my gosh. I used to know about Evernote and I just completely forgot about it. Completely. So what a great reminder. I put it in the chat if anybody wants to there. We've got also Diane watching. Blessings to you. Thank you.
And sometimes people aren't comfortable typing. I've dictated whole books before in my phone on Dragon Anywhere. It's an app that will you can hit a button and it'll actually recognize your voice and just start copying whatever you say into text, email it to yourself, put it into Word, and then start editing. So there's many ways to get your message on paper.
There are, and there's so many tools out there. And again, even if your English may not be your first language,
sure.
or you just, we didn't all get A's in English in school, and it does not matter. That does not don't allow that to be a hindrance. And the other thing is, I would say, is surround yourself with people that will be your cheerleader, somebody that can help you, or somebody that will inspire you, maybe give you some guidance. And there's, not that we're going to do a whole seminar. We could do a whole seminar on publishing and writing. Being an author, you can spend as little or as much money as you want.
Absolutely.
So you can spend tens of thousands of dollars, and that's laudable, and that's awesome. It's not the only way. Correct. You can spend very, very little and get your message out there. And then there's even people who self-publish, and then they get their books republished. We work with our publishing partner is Dr. Smiley Ken Roshan, who works with us with Ultimate Speaker Competition. And he often will take somebody who's published a book.
Yes.
And that was a great accomplishment. But then after the book was done, it was like, okay, I accomplished that. And then it just sits on the shelf. Maybe they gave out 100 copies, or they might have sold a handful or whatever. But that book can become so much more. It can be a door opener that gets you in front of your ideal client. It can open doors for you to speak at conferences, conventions,
Yes.
whatever is your goal. And
Sure.
sometimes even having another publisher that has distribution involved, because a lot of publishers do not. They publish it and you get your copies and it's a beautiful cover and that's fantastic.
That's it.
But there's so much in the publishing world. And again, it goes back to everybody has a message that somebody is going to resonate with. And if you know that you are called to make impact in this world, then you need to follow, you should, I believe, follow that path, whatever that leads you to.
And you know, Christoff, I always say, every day we listen to everybody tell their story to us. We go to work, people tell us their story. Our customers tell us their story. We go home, our family tells us their story. We watch TV, somebody else is telling us their story. When is it your time to tell your story?
When is it your time to tell your story? And one of my mentors, Bill Walsh, says your story is too big for you to play small.
I love that.
Too big to play small. And again, it goes back to the mindset. We really have to, I believe, have the mindset of confidence and knowing that your message is bigger than you. Yes. It's not really you. You're a vessel. You are being a channel that allows this message to come through. And the world is looking and searching and in dire want of messages of hope and inspiration and encouragement. You turn on the TV, you turn on any news channel, even social media, and you hear a lot of the opposite side, a lot of negativity, division, all of that. And we can be messengers that are the opposite, right? Bringing life.
I always say somebody's future cannot begin until you enter. Somebody's future cannot begin. It's just somebody that they are waiting for what you know. And what's profound to somebody else might be simple to you, but you have to speak it anyway because it may change somebody's life.
Absolutely. What is profound to others, exactly, could be something that is just so normal and natural, but it's because you've already walked that path. You've already learned that lesson. But to somebody else, it's like, oh my gosh, I never heard that before.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Speak Up, because this is not kind of, this is the way that we connected. You saw an opportunity that was presented and that brought us together, and we had a call. And since then you've met Masoom, the creator and founder director of Speak Up TV show on Prime Video. So what inspires you to, amplify your message on that scale and to be a part of this show that we're going to be filming in in January?
Well, my philosophy of it, or the perspective that I had was, I've been speaking a lot of years, quite a few decades speaking. I'm transitioning and doing some new things. I don't want to start down here. I want to start from a standpoint of quality, because today competition is everywhere. Somebody right now is practicing harder than you are at your gift. And if you're not taking what you have, I call it honoring your gift. If you're not honoring your gift on a certain level, opportunities are going to be missed. And so I saw the opportunity for Speak Up. I contacted you. We talked. And, the excellence and the quality of the production. I know you said Mr. Masoom has been in production work and television work for decades. And because, the way you present yourself, you're a walking billboard. People always see you before they hear you. They see you before they experience you. And I knew that I wanted to start up here at the top with the top level of excellence, because I felt like, this is not my first rodeo in speaking. I've spoken all over the world. So I wanted to present an excellent product. And Christoff, you and your colleagues and Speak Up are just, top of the line. And I wanted to start up here instead of having to start and try to work my way. Somebody said to me, a coach said to me, hey, when it's homemade, it looks homemade. You might have done your own marketing. You might have done your own video for many, many years, but I'm good at it. I'm good at it. Homemade will always look homemade. And so I wanted to really get something with the corporate and commercial productivity with that type of excellence on it.
I love that. And there's a lot of truth in all that you said. Homemade does look homemade.
Yeah.
And that's not to knock it, because as entrepreneurs, we all do things where we get started, right? And at some point, there's the opportunity to have others take on some of those roles. When we start out, most entrepreneurs do everything.
Right.
We write our copy. We don't even know that we have copy, right? We write our messages.
Right.
We do our marketing. We do our sales. We do our follow-up. We do our graphic design. We do everything. And I think that that's part of the journey of being an entrepreneur, because we own it, right? But then as we reach a certain level, whatever that is, there's not a time frame on it, but depending on who we're attracting and who we are wanting to attract, we do have to step it up and realize, okay, there's things that I am not great at, so maybe I need to have other people do it. And this is not to knock people that have their own streaming shows, or this is a streaming show. Hey, it's not production quality. This is not TV production quality. I am not pretending that it is.
Right.
But I see the value of sharing this. This is a platform, friends, if you're watching, called StreamYard. It allows us to broadcast to 3 different platforms simultaneously. So right now, this is going out to my LinkedIn channel that has over 15,000 connections. It's going out to my Facebook that has 5,000 connections, and it's going out to YouTube. So there's great value to it. However, what we are doing here cannot compete with being on a network television show or a streaming show like Prime Video or Netflix or whatever.
And I always say the number one roadblock that stops emerging leaders from becoming successful is their inability to collaborate. And collaboration is a very powerful thing. If you look at think about most music albums, pop albums, a lot of them begin to collaborate with other artists. It'll say featuring so-and-so, featuring so-and-so, because everybody's going to get a piece of the pie. They're going to get recognition. The collaboration piece of it is what stops people, because, isolation leads to devastation. And if you're not able to collaborate, think about conglomerate investors that go in and say they buy a building, buy a gym, buy a business or piece of commercial real estate. 4 or 5 of them go in together, they all get a piece of the pie. It's the same entrepreneurially. If you're an island unto yourself and you don't know how to collaborate, you're going to be missing a whole lot of information and resources that you could have if you would just reach out and connect.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And sadly, so many people feel that collaboration is, competitive. Right. And there's nothing wrong with having we have an event called the Ultimate Speaker Competition. So certainly we support that idea, but it's not competition in terms of pushing somebody else away. Collaboration, it's leveraging each other's networks and opportunities and supporting each other, right?
Yes.
It is the wave of today. And it's the way that most people are going to be most successful. And you have something to offer that I don't, right? And my audience is going to be blessed because of something that they heard from you that is different than the way that I communicate, right?
And likewise, my audience as well. Absolutely.
It's an amazing opportunity, and it's a great thing. So in addition to Speak Up, that's what's on the horizon for you, my friend. You're always doing amazing things. So you've mentioned you've got 4 books in the works. What else is happening? Or you want to talk about any of those books? Which one are you most excited about?
Well,
it's like 4 children.
Exactly. I do a lot of, right now I'm really focusing on keynote speaking, obviously helping corporations to get their teams unstuck and forward focused, because turnover is so high. People can't find people to work. They have a hard time knowing how to handle conflict. So the whole collaboration piece is something that I help corporations with, but also the coaching piece. I do a lot of coaching, working with some real estate agents now, and some business owners. Some of them want to write their book. I help people with publishing, and really what I do as a coach is help them get clarity. We talked about collaboration, but also clarity. Without clarity and narrowing, if you're everywhere, you're nowhere. You know that, Christoff. If you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there?
Yep.
So clarity is, hey, I can't be everywhere. I got to be focused. I always say get unstuck and forward focused. I've got to be focused on what does my future look like? You can either tolerate the future you get or create the future that you want. There's two types of people. Some just accept what comes their way. Others change it, create it. Life's a menu, kind of like if you just went to the steakhouse. You kind of pick, this is what I want. This is what I want in my life. So I coach people on how to do that in their businesses, and in their professional life, and also sometimes with my mental health and ministry background in their personal life as well. So, I kind of got a lot of irons in the fire with publishing, coaching, and keynote speaking, but it keeps me busy.
I love it. There was something else that, here we have Sharon Ria says, I agree, collaboration.
Yes.
Collaboration is the key, my friends. How would people find you? What's the best way to find you?
My website is being changed and updated. They say when it comes to a marketing standpoint, you need to refresh every 12 to 15 months. So we're right in the middle of a refreshing of all our social media, and the website's probably going to be another week in coming. I have an old website where they can go to www.bishopp.tv. They can catch me on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Most of it's going to say Paul Wondracek or Dr. Paul Wondracek. But if you want to email me, you can email me at booking@drpaulspeaks.org. booking@drpaulspeaks.org. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Wow. I'm going to take a moment to type that in so that the audience can see that.
Wonderful.
Give us a little bit of an idea of what you'll be sharing on the stage at Speak Up.
Well, I'm gonna share some really funny stories because when you're doing keynotes, my struggle has been being so deep because of writing books, and for trainings and workshops that's fine. When it comes to keynotes, you really want to inspire, and you want to inspire quickly. And so we're going to tell some good stories, but I want people to understand you are an asset, you have a skill set, but you need a mindset. You have to know what you bring to the table in relationships, in business, on your job. You're an asset. You have to believe that and have confidence that you bring what nobody else brings. You got to know how much goodness enters a room when you step into it. You have to know your expertise. So you're an asset. You have to know that. A lot of people don't know that. And number two, you have a skill set. There is a dominant gifting in your life. If everybody had to work for free, what would you do? What would you do? Answer that question. I would speak, I would write, and I would mentor or coach. And so if you can answer that question, you can discover your skill set, what I call honoring your gift. You owe it to the earth to empty yourself of everything that's inside of you. And then finally, Christoff, is you have to develop the mindset. A lot of people they know they're an asset, they have a skill set, but if you don't have the mindset for success, like we talked about the positivity, your mind is your world. Everybody lives in a different world. And, if we can develop that mindset for success, I love to talk to people about these things. And I'm excited to bring that to the stage at Speak Up.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, I appreciate our time together. I will definitely invite you to be back again on It's Your Time to Shine. Thank you to everybody that has been watching us. Thank you to those who have been watching on the replay. Thank you to Speak Up for being a sponsor for this episode. And you can reach Paul if you want to email him at booking@drpaulspeaks.com. You can also go to bishop.tv. Bishop is with 2 P's, and he also is all over social media. He is the only Dr. Paul Wondracek that I found when I Googled him. And it's just been a fantastic pleasure. Truly enjoyed this broadcast, says Diane.
Yes.
Thank you to all of our viewers and listeners. And I look forward to sharing the stage with you at Speak Up. Last words from you, Dr.
Oh, thank you, Christoff. It's a joy to be here. Thank you, everybody. I'm really excited. You know, we're here to get you unstuck and forward focused to create the future that you want. Check out Speak Up at the end of January. It'll be obviously on Amazon Prime, and you'll see it all over the internet. And I'm just excited to help you win. Walk in wisdom, identify your inspiration, and help you navigate through transitional seasons. Y'all be blessed. Thanks.
Cheers, everybody. God bless. Happy Saturday. And we'll talk to you soon. It's Christoff J Weihman from Las Vegas with Dr. Paul Wondracek on It's Your Time to